So there are lots of ways to describe a sales process. I like this 5-step version because it maps really well onto admission work and because it's really simple. These are things that schools already do, right? We already greet people, we already understand their needs, we already show them the school through the lens of what matters to them. We explain the mechanics of getting in, and we respond to what they're afraid of. The value in naming the steps here, as I've done very simply, is just that it helps us to become more intentional about it. You're already selling, right? This is already what we do. So we're going to go through each of these steps very briefly. So the purpose of the greet is not just to be polite, of course, it's to establish rapport, right? It's to create comfort and connection. A parent is walking into an emotionally loaded decision. I often joke that we're seeing people with the most high stakes decisions they can make, that we're talking about their children and we're talking about a lot of money. And that combination is pretty tough. So people are coming in with a lot of feelings, even if they don't know what those feelings are. And they may be wondering, is my child going to be known here? Am I going to fit in here? Can I trust these people? And the greet is where we are laying that groundwork. Most admission professionals are pretty good at the greet. Not everybody. I've observed admission folks who jump too fast into the hard sales part and they sort of skip over this. Hi, welcome to Jones School. We're so glad you're here. Today on our tour, you're going to see class sizes of yada yada. We're going to show you our 8th graders doing amazing. They jump in as opposed to establishing that rapport. The needs assessment is arguably the most important part of the process. It is also the part that schools often rush. We're so eager to tell people what makes our schools special that we forget to find out what they are actually trying to solve. What is the problem they are trying to solve? This really harkens to the Jobs to be Done framework from NAIS. If you don't know about that, you should check it out. Jobs to be Done, NAIS. So we want to start by asking before telling, right? What prompted them to look? What's working now? What's not working? What are they hoping for their child? What would make the school feel like the right fit? If your goal is to leave the conversation being able to say, this family is really trying to solve for ... Now, if you're a school that starts with really little kids, 3 years old or even kindergarten, the problem the family's trying to solve is going to be a little bit less easy to put your finger on than for an older student. But even for a younger student, you can be thinking about, what are the priorities that I'm hearing that are rising to the surface? And how can I adapt my messaging in order to address those things? I'll give you a great example. I once worked at a school where we had an excellent arts program and we like to show it off. And it was a big part of the tour. And one summer I was doing a one-on-one tour with a family, and the art program was actually really easy to show over the summer also because we left art up all summer. And we had a drama camp going. Very easy to show. Anyway, I took this family on this amazing tour, and 2/3 of the way through it, after we'd spent quite a bit of time talking about art, I found out that they think that their child is a potential Olympic level athlete. I had spent no time talking about athletics. Our school was fine in athletics. It was not a typical selling point, although I could pitch it if I needed to pitch it, but I'd mismanaged the time, right? Now, when I'm giving this example, this is also these are parents of a really young child, right? Who are pretty sure that their child's going to be an Olympic level skier at 4 or whatever. But I didn't hear that, right? If I had just asked at the beginning, tell me a little bit about Susie, who's 4, they would have immediately said, she's a star skier. And I would have immediately been able to flip my strategy. Again, most of you are already doing this. You're A, doing it naturally, and B, you're probably doing it super, super well in terms of adapting on the fly. I do think that when we're under pressure, whether that's time pressure or just true enrollment pressure, we can move a little bit too fast. And again, this is a place where I just want everyone to take a deep breath. Don't skip over it. The spin is a strategy for finding out about a family's needs. Situation questions really help us answer what the family's context is. Problem questions are helping us to surface pain points or gaps. Implication questions are exploring what happens if nothing changes. Need payoffs is helping the family articulate the value themselves of a better solution. We're not trying to manufacture pain. We're just trying to understand the decision that the family is really trying to make. And again, The reminder here is to slow down a little bit. And I don't know how many of you follow me or get my newsletter or have read my blog, but last week I posted a relatively long blog post about my obsession with the Artemis 2 mission. And I don't know if any of you have been following it. I continue to follow it. I'm listening to all of their press conferences and so on. Anyway, one of the things they talk about being astronauts in space is moving slow in order to move fast. Those are my words, not theirs, but they talk about no quick hands and how even in the face of alarms going off in the middle of the night, which apparently happened to them almost every night of the mission, they were getting notifications that their fuel was leaking, which is not good. There are all these protocols in place when something like that happens, and they as a team stuck to, we're not going to move too fast here, no fast hands, and they decided not to do the protocol. And they were right. The indicators were too dramatic for what was actually going on. And spoiler alert, if you don't already know this, they came back safely. So we're talking about going slow and not jumping the gun.